You know the pattern, but you can't seem to stop it. The way you abandon yourself for people who don't stay. The way you hand your heart to hands that aren't careful. The way you see the red flags and walk toward them anyway. Something in you drawn to exactly what will hurt. Like a compass oriented toward your own destruction. You've blamed the people who hurt you. You've blamed luck, timing, the universe's apparent vendetta against your happiness. But there's something you haven't let yourself see. You're not the victim of your heartbreaks. You're the author. And you've been writing the same story over and over, casting different actors in the same role, wondering why the ending never changes. There's a specific kind of pain that comes from betraying yourself. Not the pain of being betrayed by others. That has its own sharp quality. This is different, duller, deeper. The pain of having known better and done it anyway, of having seen clearly and walked blind, of having your own interests in your hands and setting them down for someone who wouldn't do the same for you. Every time you break your own heart, you add a layer of distrust, not of others, but of yourself. And this distrust is the most corrosive inheritance of repeated self-betrayal. You stop believing you'll protect yourself because you've proven over and over that you won't. You've wondered if you're addicted to pain, if something in you seeks out suffering the way others seek comfort. And there's truth there, but it's more precise than addiction. You're not drawn to pain randomly. You're drawn to the pain that feels familiar, the dynamic that matches your earliest template of love, the flavor of suffering you learned to call intimacy before you knew there were other flavors. And so you keep returning to what you know, mistaking recognition for connection, confusing the familiar with the meant to be. Schopenhauer understood that human beings are driven by will, not rational choice, but blind, unconscious wanting. And what you want, he saw, is often not what would make you happy. You want what your formative experiences programmed you to want. You want what your wounds have shaped you to seek. The child who learned that love was unpredictable wants love that's unpredictable. The child who learned that attention required performance wants relationships where attention must be constantly earned. The child who learned that intimacy meant pain will find intimacy in pain again and again, calling it love. This is not your fault. The programming happened before choice was possible. You were wired for certain patterns by experiences you didn't control. But here's where responsibility enters. Now you know, or at least you're beginning to know. The patterns are becoming visible. The repetition is becoming undeniable. And every time you break your own heart now, you're doing it with more information than before. The innocence that once protected you from responsibility is fading. You're starting to see that the hand holding your heart out to people who will drop it is your own hand. Schopenhauer would say that most people never achieve clarity about their patterns. They remain at the mercy of the will, endlessly repeating without understanding, suffering without learning. The fact that you're beginning to see is already a kind of progress, but seeing isn't the same as changing. The will doesn't respond to insight. The patterns don't dissolve because you understand them. They continue with the added torment of self-awareness until something more than understanding intervenes. What would it mean to stop breaking your own heart? Not to protect yourself through walls. That's just another kind of self-betrayal, trading the pain of failed connection for the pain of no connection, but to develop the capacity to see clearly and act on what you see, to notice the red flags and respect your own notice, to feel the familiar pull toward what will hurt and choose differently anyway. This isn't suppressing the will. That's impossible and wouldn't work anyway. It's building a counterforce, a commitment to yourself that's stronger than the programming that betrays you. Consider what you're actually doing when you break your own heart. You're choosing someone else's comfort over your own. You're prioritizing their needs over yours. You're abandoning yourself in the hope that the abandonment will purchase love. But love purchased through self-abandonment isn't love. It's transaction. And the price you pay is always higher than what you receive. Every time you betray yourself for someone who wouldn't betray themselves for you, you're making a bad trade. And some part of you knows this even as you make it. That knowing, that sinking feeling you override, is yourself trying to protect you. And you ignore it every single time. The people who hurt you are not the cause of your heartbreak. They're the occasion. The cause is your willingness to hand yourself over to people who haven't earned the privilege. The cause is your inability to distinguish between love and familiarity. The cause is the part of you that believes you're not worthy of care, and so accepts carelessness as your appropriate portion. These causes live in you, and until you address them, changing your external circumstances, finding better partners, making better choices on the surface, won't touch the deeper pattern. Schopenhauer wasn't optimistic about human nature. He saw the will as fundamentally untamable, human suffering as largely inevitable. But he also saw that understanding, while not sufficient for change, is necessary for it. You can't change patterns you can't see. You can't interrupt compulsions you don't recognize. The first step is always clarity, brutal, uncomfortable clarity about what you're actually doing and why. You keep breaking your own heart because your heart has been programmed to offer itself to hands that will drop it. The programming felt like love once. It felt like connection, like intimacy, like the only kind of closeness you understood. But you're not a child anymore. The early template was installed in a context that no longer exists, and the loyalty you're showing to that template, continuing to offer your heart as you were taught to, is not loyalty to yourself. It's loyalty to patterns that were never designed for your well-being. They were designed for survival, and surviving and thriving are different things. The invitation is not to hate yourself for the pattern. Self-hatred is just another form of self-betrayal. The invitation is to see clearly, with compassion, what you've been doing, and then to begin, slowly, tentatively, to do differently. To notice when you're about to hand your heart to careless hands, and to hesitate. To feel the pull toward the familiar pain and to question it. To build, over time, a new pattern. One where you protect what you've been giving away, where you keep what you've been abandoning, where the heart you've broken so many times finally has a defender who will actually defend it. That defender is you. It was always supposed to be you.